Today I'm going to be talking about integrating Vue.js into Shopify. A little bit about myself. I started out as a mainframe system programmer. The first language I ever learned was assembler, which is probably not that common. Then I started learning Ruby on Rails, and then I finally got to the front end and learned some JavaScript and some CSS. So I feel like I went from like the back to the front. And then I'm currently CTO of Up at 5 because I am a morning person. I'm the organizer of Rails Girls TO and a JavaScript instructor at HackerU. And today I'm going to tell you a story about how Vue has made my life a lot easier. So in this talk, we're going to first go into a little bit about Shopify. I'm from Toronto, and half the people I know work at Shopify, so I just assume everybody knows what it is. But sometimes when I tell people, they're like, "Are you talking about Spotify?" I'm like, "No, that is different." And then the real life problem that inspired me to learn Vue, and then how I came to decide to use Vue to solve my real life problem, and then how to implement it into Shopify. So first of all, Shopify is an e-commerce platform. It was created in Ottawa, but there's also a huge development team in Toronto, so we see it a lot. It's really great because it's got the inventory management, the payment system, and it's a really great developer-friendly ecosystem. The cons are that it's a closed ecosystem. You do not have a lot of control in changing what you're able to do. You can add pages and different product templates, but you can't change the routing. You can't add to the database. So you're somewhat limited in what you can do. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, all Shopify stores look the same," which basically what we do at Up at 5 is we sort of try to make Shopify stores look different and create different buying experiences so that they stand out a little bit and make it easier to sell items. So our real life problem was this printing company called Italic. They didn't have they had a website, but they couldn't really sell online because their products are so customized that they weren't able to have all of the options available just as a single product. So what they needed to do was create a form in which a customer could come in and completely customize a thing. And I can show you what the final product looked like, which is this. So each product has a bunch of options, and then every time you make a change, we want to update the total and the unit cost. Each product will have I don't even really know what these options are because I'm not super into printing, but you can change like black only to full color will change the price quite a bit. So, but also the issue is each type of product, like invitation or poster, has all different options. So we needed to create a way to be able to show this to the user, have the user create all these selections, manage all of this data, including we have a summary of everything they've chosen. We also have 2 separate pages because we have a file upload. We also want to be able to show everything here. And then when we add to cart, we want to pass all that data along to the cart system. And we want to keep everything updated all the time. So there's a lot of data management on this page. So that was our problem, and so we came up with a solution. And the first part of our solution was Shopify, perfect for e-commerce, and then Rails for a Shopify embedded app to allow the client Italic to be able to configure all of those options. So the Rails database stores all of the options for each different product type and allows our client to configure each product. But we didn't really have a good way to display this on the front end or show it to the user or manage all the data. So there was kind of a question there. So our possibilities were jQuery and React. These were the 3 front runners for what we might want to do for the front end. Our requirements for the front end was pull data in from the Shopify app, build the form with that data, manage all the user selections across 2 different pages, and then send the data to the 2 APIs. The APIs aren't really that important to this story, so I won't go into those at all, but that was our goal. So jQuery, basically the biggest pro to jQuery was that it comes with Shopify out of the box, so we wouldn't have to do anything. The cons are, there's way too much data management and 2 different pages. to manage all of this information wasn't really ideal. I mean, it was definitely possible with jQuery, but it just gave me a headache trying to think about like managing all of this data. So our next option was React. We've done quite a bit with React, so we're familiar with it. It's perfect for the complicated state management. It's perfect for a single page application. The cons is that, well, actually, a pro of Shopify is they've created this the storefront API, which is a GraphQL API, which you can use in conjunction with React to create an entire store with React with all of the information. The con is that we would have to create the entire store in React, where in this instance, really just the product page was the only thing that we really cared about changing. And you lose some of the functionality of what our clients are able to update when we use React. So it wasn't like the most ideal option. And again, it gave me a headache just thinking about all of the extra work I would have to do for not a lot of good reason. But obviously I'm here, so I went with Vue. But what was the reason why I went with Vue? The number one reason was the CDN. So the CDN like made my life so much easier. And what does this mean for this? It means that we could just use Vue just on that single product page. It means that we could use a pre-built theme because our client, as a printing company, wasn't concerned with having the rest of the site be so unique that it needed to be a custom theme. So we went with a pre-built theme. And this is especially useful because themes get updated, and with the CDN, all we're doing is we only had to touch so few files in the file system that if the theme became updated, it would be very easy for us to manage if for some reason our client decided to update it, overwrite our code. All of our code is very much contained in just about 2 or 3 files. So it would be easy for us to manage that. So then I went down the world of learning Vue, and Robin Hamill of the Tooling Down Lightning Talk first was the one who told me about the CDN, and also has basically taught me everything I know about Vue up until this point. And in the spirit of keeping things simple, Vue was the perfect tool. I needed no new build tools to add. There's no to completely rebuilding the site, and yes to the data management, which is really the most important thing that we needed. So the pros to Vue were the CDN, because the SPA sort of easiness with it, and the state data management to keep track of all of that info. And the con is only that the CDN, I don't think it gives you access to 100% of the full features of Vue, which wasn't a huge con in our particular use case. So now our solution was Shopify plus Rails plus Vue to create this application. So again, I'll say this. So we did Shopify app, feeds data into the Shopify page, which now we've also added Vue to, and sends it to the 2 APIs. So we just got a Shopify theme from out of the sandbox. I'm giving them a shout out because I know all the developers there and they're really cool. They also make great themes. The Shopify app that we created with the Rails, I'm saying here it's a private Shopify app because it's not going to be used for any other stores, but technically a private app is different from a Shopify app, and it's technically not a private app, but it's never going to be used by anybody else, so it's just for that one client. And then the customized product template to allow customers to select the options. So these were now the 3 parts of the thing that we're using. So the one thing that we do want to discuss here is the product page with Vue. So we use Vue to accept the data from Rails. We use build to build the form with all of the unique options for each product, and then we use Vue to manage all the user selections and then send those selections to the Shopify API to build the product as well as another API. So this is, I think, data in, user interaction, data out is kind of the essence of all programming. Like data in, do something with it, data out. And Vue is making my life a lot easier for this. So how do we actually integrate Vue into Shopify? I'm going to just do a little example. that is a lot less complicated than the form because we don't need to know all of that. And this is just a little example of how to add related products to a product page. This is quite common, and it's usually done with an app that you pay for with Shopify, and apps are, this one would be like $5 or $10 a month. With this, you just do it and you don't have to pay anything extra ever, so it makes it more ideal for that. So all we're doing is you can select them and then the total will add, and then you can just add those to the cart. So we're just gonna do a little example to show how one integrates Shopify. So first, I just want to go over the Shopify file structure. Because Shopify is not an open source system, it's a closed system, you have to adhere to their file system exactly. The assets are where you would put in your CSS and stuff. The config is something, layout is the general layout. These are not things that we're going to be concerned with right now. The main thing that we are concerned with is the template. So all of the templates correspond directly to a root. So if it was cart.liquid, it would go to the cart page. Product.liquid goes to the product page. Collection.liquid goes to the collection page. The one thing that you can do is add customized templates. Now, I call this customized. You could call it anything. And you have to adhere to this naming standard, which is like the template name dot whatever name you want to give it dot liquid. When you do this, it will show up in the template of the product. So if we go here, you can see that on this product page, we now have 2 options. And so in order to use the customized one, we just select the custom one. Technically, in my example, I didn't use the custom one. I just overwrote the existing one, so I'm going to leave it. But that's how you would do it if you don't want to overwrite the standard Shopify template. And then I just used the theme for this example that came right out of the box with Shopify, and they also use sections. So sections is just another, it's a bit of an abstraction, so you just include the section in the customized product template. I'm not going to go into the details of why you might do that right now because it's not really important. You could also put all of the code that I'm doing directly into the template. It doesn't really matter. So inside of that product custom template that's in the sections file, this is just how we did it. So I think this is pretty standard for anybody who's used Vue. We created a div with the ID of app. I bring in the CDN, and then inside of the script tags below the CDN, I just instantiate the app like every other Vue project, I think. But I came up with an issue. I'm in a .liquid file, so I can use liquid, but the Vue template tags are also exactly the same as liquid. So how is my code supposed to decide the difference between what's Vue and what's liquid? So I was like, oh my goodness, is this gonna stop me? Because this seemed so good, but was it too good to be true? And then a little Googling, and I discovered, as Tamara yesterday brought up, the delimiter tags. So Vue has this option where you can just change the delimiter tags to whatever you want, and so now it's no longer going to conflict with my liquid. This was one of the greatest things that I learned, and just such a nice little feature to put into something like this. I just did, I think, whatever was in the example because it seemed good enough and it wasn't conflicting with anything. So now that that's solved, we have to move on to the data. So if Shopify is such a closed system and we can't add anything to the database, how do we add these extra items to the template? Shopify also provides something called metafields. Metafields is not the most user-friendly for clients who are not technical at all, but it is a reasonable option for clients who are more cost-sensitive than they are to learning. Because otherwise you'd have to create a whole app and that's going to cost a lot. So Shopify allows you to access these metafields. Now you have to use the Shopify FD Chrome extension, which can be a little bit frustrating, but what it does is it injects this little metafield option here and allows you to enter them through the admin interface. And in this case, and you have 3 things that you need to add. The namespace, which is just a way to group your meta fields. So if you had you could have so many meta fields, and some are maybe product related, some might be completely other related. So the namespace just allows you to group your meta fields. The key is basically the key, and it has to be unique. So I'm just calling it handle because we're grabbing the handle of the product and just appending a number to it. Because we're probably not gonna have thousands, it's not gonna be that big of an issue to manage. And then the value is the handle of the related product, which is essentially just the slug of the title of the product. And it's the unique identifier that tells Shopify which product you're talking about. So if we go here, you can see you enter them here, and then you can just see here, I've added 3 coffee beans, latte cup. Oh, maybe I've added more, but so this is what you do. So I've added 3 options, 3 meta fields to this namespace to be the related products, which is why here these products show up. So creating the data, because we're in a .liquid file, we can also access the liquid inside of the JS tags. So that's what I've done here. I'm just going to note that these curly braces with the percentage signs are the logic template tags in Liquid, as opposed to the double curly braces, which is the displaying template tags. So in Liquid, this is just the Liquid sort of form of a for loop. So it's for item in, and then we have product. It knows what product it is because it's the product page. And if you look at the product page, it accesses the handle here, and then Shopify just automatically knows that that's the product that we're talking about. And then the meta fields, and then the add product, which is the namespace that we just gave it. And then we assign. Assign is how we create a variable in Shopify Liquid. We assign it the item, the last thing in the item, which is the handle, and we call it add handle. Then what we do is we're just going to create an object, because we are in JavaScript script tags right now. We just create an empty object, and what we're just going to do is go through and add the options or the information about the product to each, as a element in the object. So in this example, it's the title, and we just access all products. All products is the Shopify object that allows you to access all the products. And using square bracket notation to pass through the unique, or the handle. And then .title is the actual element that we're trying to access here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to loop through all of the meta fields. We're going to grab all of the information from Liquid, put it into this object, and then add that object to an array, and then add that array to Vue. So we can just look at the code here now. So I'm just creating a custom products array. Then I'm looping through the meta fields. I'm assigning the handle, and then I'm creating this object, and then I'm just looping through all of the things: the name, the price, the title, the image. I just want to note here, because this actually really threw me off when I was doing this for the first time. I would assume that when you access the information that it's going to bring it back as a string. It actually doesn't bring it back as a string. So if you want the information to be a string, you have to put quotes around it, which just is a syntax to me that made it look like it was broken, like I was just quoting the Liquid syntax. So that's why the quotes around everything except for the price. I'm also bringing money without currency. This is a filter in Liquid. Notice that I'm just using the regular Liquid tags here, but the bar here is the filter. And money without currency, I'm doing this because I want to be able to add the numbers together, so I don't want it to be in the currency form now. the title, the image, the ID. I'm also adding a flag here for active that I'm setting to false, and I'm also adding a product class called line item just for styling purposes. And then I'm pushing that object into the customs products array. So what we end up with is a object that looks, or an array that looks like this with objects. I just have 2 here because 3 was too much to show. But this is all the information that we have access to now. And now all we do is we add that data straight to Vue. So I'm just also calling it custom products. So in the data object, I'm just saying custom products is equal to the custom products array that I just created. And now we're using Vue to manage this data with for additional products. And we can, now it's just Vue. We just have all the access to Vue. So the first thing that I do is I'm going to create a little filter for the currency because I do want to display it in the currency. The next thing I'm doing is I'm adding a method to toggle each one, which is just if it's active, switch it to inactive. If it's inactive, switch it to active. So when I click on it, it's going to be selected or not selected. I create a computed value. Computed value is also one of the great things that makes my life easier in Vue, which is I'm just creating a computed value for the total, which is just adding all of the prices together for the elements that are active. And then the last thing that we have to do is we just have to set up the markup. So all we're going to do is do a V loop through the custom products, and then now we're using these new delimiters that I created instead of the double curly braces, and we just get to display it. So we're just looping through for custom product and custom products. Then I just have an on click here to toggle active. So if and this just affects the styling as well as like whether it's being totaled at the bottom here. And then I just have the vbind for the class active. So that's for styling purposes. If it's active, I just highlight it blue. And then the other is the custom product.product class for also just styling purposes. Then I vbind the source for the image so that our images can show up here. And then I show the title. I show the price with the currency filter, which is very similar to the currency filter in Liquid. And then I show the computed total value here with also the currency filter. And so this is what we get. So now you can see that we have this small Vue app inside a Shopify template. There's very few lines of code relatively, and the rest of Shopify is unchanged. So I just think that was just so easy. That just makes my life so easy. I can manage these little things. I don't have to use jQuery, which I do like jQuery for what it's good at, but you know, you have to use the right tool for the right problem. So that's how I integrate Vue into Shopify. The takeaways are the CDN allows you for quick integration with Vue without a lot of messing with the rest of it. I don't have to use build tools or do anything. The delimiter deals with the option deals with the conflicts of the template tags, so I don't have to worry about that. And taking the data from the templating language and converting into data in Vue. You could also bring it in with the Shopify Ajax API, but I just didn't do it this time. And then now you can allow Vue to handle all of that sort of complicated data management without having for it to affect all of the rest of everything that already works. And it's perfect for any slightly complicated front-end interaction that you want to do. And so that's how Vue made my life easier. That project we did in this summer, and Now we're currently working on 4 projects in which we're integrating Vue into Shopify because it's just so easy and nice and making our life so easy. And thank you, and you can find me at Dear Trudence. Up at 5 is my company, and there's actually a full tutorial on this at Code Shopify, which is my blog, well, our blog, me and my business partner, where we do a bunch of tutorials on coding for Shopify, but this one, it goes into more depth. And that's everything. And also I'd like to thank Robin Hamill for teaching me about Vue. Thank you.